Hi guys, just checking I'd actually started the video then. I'm going to start again because I got interrupted by a toddler during this piece, but I'm talking here about doing the teeth for the fractured skull. This is my Libs Elliot Phosphor version that I'm sewing up at the moment. So these are the teeth for one side, and this is what the teeth are going to be like for the second side. The colourways are different. Because I'm doing two different colourways, a cool side and a hot side. So this is what we're going to be aiming for. As you can see, I've done a little bit of naughty sewing. I use all my scraps, so I'll use tiny little bits like this to sew the teeth and things. And here I've come a little bit short than I wanted, and again here I've come a bit shorter than I wanted. These I know are going to be okay because the seam allowance is back here, so we're going to be close to it but not on it. And what I do is I actually use a little bit of fray check to, so you can see this isn't moving, it's kind of all stuck down, just to help it all stay in place. Obviously once it's all sewn together and quilted it won't move around, or it shouldn't anyway. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about these ones and do these ones with you. Obviously that one I've already done, but the toddler did come and cry at the door. What a bad mother I am. Anyway, so which one should we start on? Let's start on this one. I did the first simple one because I thought that would be easy, but obviously I skipped that. So here, so the colours that I'm using for this side are, the shade numbers are the ones with the hashtag on here. So I've got shade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. I don't think I'll be using 7 and 6, but I just thought you'd like to see them. Anyway, so the order numbers are these slightly larger numbers without the hashtag in front of them. So the first one to do is this one, which is a number 2. I don't think I've actually got any scraps of number 2, but as you see I've got this bit here, so I will just whip a bit off that. And I know I've got a number 2 on here as well for this middle tooth, so if I can try and use like one side here and then the other side will be I'll use for the tooth. So you need the back of the fabric. I'm placing this over. To make this a little bit easier, I'm going to fold this first. So just folding a line along the lines. This is the foundation paper from Pattern Trace, which I find really good. The glue doesn't stick to it really harshly, so when it comes to peeling off, it comes off really nicely, and also but it does hold it, which is always useful too. And this one. So I've just gone all the way around section number 1, folding them. Now I'm going to get my little bit of glue, just pop a little bit on there. This is just a glue stick from Poundland. If you can see what it's like there. I don't know what you have elsewhere in the world, I'll be honest. But that's what I use. So I will now stick this here, and I've got a decent allowance around all the way. She says moving it, so make sure she does. And then I will trim this off. And I forgot to put my phone on silent, so you've just had a buzz when I've had a message. Somebody loves me. Yeah, so that's all I'll do. This one, yeah, I'll trim some of that off. I won't actually go for the full 1/4 inch seam on the teeth. I do on the other pieces, but not on the teeth, just because it does get really bulky. So then we need to work with number 5. Number 5 is this pink shade, and this little scrap that normally you would just bin, I can use that for number 3 here, or maybe even number 2. I might do it for number 2 actually. It's certainly long enough. So turning it over, lining it up. Now number 2 is a tiny little scrap. I know that we're going to cover all of it with this, no doubt, to be honest. I don't even really need to check, but you might want to. So I'm just going to sew that quickly. It is a tiny little bit, so I will use my pin that I had and just pin this end of it, the end that's going under the machine first. Oh, I can't do it. It's too little. There we go. Just so this doesn't get caught up underneath, and then I just have to unstitch it, because we definitely don't want any additional bulk of something folded under. So I'm using my faff today. It's my favourite, well, it's my only, well no, I do have a Jumeau, but this is my favourite, fanciest machine. It's a faff Performance 5.2. I love it. What I've just done there is I've got it as a lock stitch at the beginning and a lock stitch at the end, and when I press the end one, it also cuts it, which enables me to start thinking about the next piece, and I know that it's finishing up. So I've just pressed that with my fingers, press it with that. I will just trim this down. So this is how I sew, guys. Obviously there'll be hard fast people that do it more professionally or whatever than I do. I'm just using these kind of bits and odd shapes that I've created from the larger sections. Like I can use that later on. I'm going to cut that off now actually. So I can use that in a minute, and I'll be able to use this in a minute. So I'm kind of using every bit, and I only end up with tiny little bits like this, which just go in my little thread bin, to be honest. So number 3 down here is next. That's definitely going to cover it. To be honest, I think I might even just pull it over a bit to try and use it for another corner, like maybe this one down here. Folding it over, just double checking I've got enough seam allowance down in this area. So I kind of use this method to check along there. So I'll just sew that. Haven't pinned this one, I can check visually that I haven't got the back end tucked under. So I'm starting to think about the next section I'm going to do. So I've got these ones prepped. Here, finger press, and maybe even a roll. I do have this, use occasionally. It's actually for wallpapering, I think. That's what happens when you get a non-sewer buying you your Christmas presents. But it works, it's good. I just have to be occasionally careful that it doesn't damage the fabric. So then I will trim that side off. And there's also a little bit over here that I'll trim off. You want to take off anything that you can that you don't need, basically, in this exercise. So we're on to number 4. This long thin bit is perfect for that. So I'll line it up here. I do try and be a bit more generous than I need to be, she says, holding tiny bits of fabric, but you don't want to waste too much either. So that's the teeth. I'm just trying to get to the stage where I can show you the next tooth and make this a little bit more interesting. See here, you've really not sewn very much, to be honest, but it does really make, as you can see on these, it does really make the teeth stand out from each other. This is the tooth we're doing, and the bit we've just done is this one, so it really does kind of show. Obviously these look a bit funny at the moment, but once you've kind of taken away the seam allowance, it really does all pull together. So I'm just trimming back, that's what I'm doing, Helen. I've given a little bit more length there because haven't got a million other things coming on here, so it's always good to have a bit more space. So now we're going to number 3, which is an orangey, more of an orangey colour. Let me just check scraps wise. What am I doing? Oh, I've done that one. Yep, no, this one. My bad, my bad. So I haven't got any big enough scraps. Well, that's probably big enough. Just about. So I will use that. Oh, and no, those are too tiny. Totally rehearsed this, obviously, you can see. I'll trim off that because I definitely don't want that to show. And I'm just gonna look at this and check that I haven't. Actually, just about the right shape. So fold that back over, give it another quick iron because I've been fiddling with it. Now, pretty sure it needs to be that way round. I'm going to line it all the way up with the top of the fabric because I definitely don't want any of the white to show. Fold it back and I can see that there isn't going to be any white showing. And using my fingers, I can feel that all of that is going to be well within the area. So I'm happy to sew that. So again, holding it just like that, flip it over and then sew along the line. Roll stitch. This one is going to have a good old roll. That, classic, I knew I'd do this, is tighter than I would want. But what I will do is I will probably just sew a smidgen over that line, just so I've got enough there. I'll probably pop some, rather than unstitching this, because there's a lot, it's gone through a lot and things, I will run with this. Don't tell anyone who would disapprove. And if you disapprove, don't tell me. You might make me cry. Obviously this is, you know, my own preference. Some people would not be using such tiny little scraps. Obviously I definitely don't need to cut that back, and I've got that there, which I will trim back just because I know I don't need all of that. So what are we doing next? We've done 5. 6 is actually up over here, but I'm going to finish out over here just to hold this as much in place as possible. The other trick that I will do when I want something to stay in place is I will probably put a smidgen of glue there. Oh, and actually I can trim this bit of fabric back a bit more. I can take that out. So there's a bit of glue on the paper now. I'm tacking it in. It's just so when I sew that seam, if you can see here with the contrast, you can see it's probably about an eighth of an inch here rather than a quarter, which is probably tighter than I would really want it to be. But I'm going to sew this number 7 in just to hold that in place, but also the glue will have done that too. Just holding it to the paper while I'm sewing the rest of the fabric and securing it around. That is one of the joys of using the glue. So here I'm being generous. I'm going to sew that. So that's that corner held in place now. Good roll, good press. trim it up. So we've got all of this seam allowance covered. This area here is going to be done when we do this. I can trim this back. I'm not going to trim it back as far. And while I'm working on this end, what I'll do is I will chuck on a little bit of this fray check. It can change the colour of the fabric. It doesn't tend to with these ones, I've discovered. So that is just going to dry and hold the threads together a little bit more. Give it a little bit of stability. So while that happens, I'll work on the other end. Square this off a bit. Normally I have more scraps than this, but I think I tidied up, or I've lost them on the floor or something. The state of my sewing room at the moment is frankly quite horrific. I'm not going to show you though because it's embarrassing. So I'm going to pop that on there. I'm doing the number 6 line here. Fold that over, roll that, trim it off a bit. What I'm actually, this one I can trim back a bit further. What I'm actually going to do is, I think I will sew this line now because I've got this fabric here. I didn't have any before, but I do now, and then that will fully secure this slight shortfall because I was being too tight with my fabric. And I've done that seam too soon. I've gone out of order. So I haven't actually stitched that off. If you can see, what I've done is I should have done this one first. I'm rushing ahead and not thinking. So I've cut that off there, and it's not actually fully stitched. So I will use my seam ripper just to pull it back a little bit. And I will still do that 10. I'll pin this back. I'll still do that 10, and then I'll flip this over and finish doing that. I won't take it off completely. There we go. All great people make mistakes. I'm not that great, as you can tell. Number 8 on here is a number 1, so it's the lightest colour. As you can see, the colour progression here is from an orange to a slightly greeny colour. I think I've cut that too small again. This is me. Yeah, I cut it too small. This is me not getting a bit flustered now, so I'm going to slow down. Sure, all of you, I'm just going to use this bigger piece here. It really doesn't matter. I can be more efficient if I do that, probably. I would just trying to make it so you guys can see as much as possible. So here, I'm just taking my time to line it up again. Fold this back. Check I've definitely got this corner covered. I've got a tiny little bit there that's not covered. Normally I wouldn't really worry about that, but I'm trying to do it by the rule book now. I've screwed up. So there we go. Sewn that line, a bit of a finger press. We got some of the pink showing through slightly, so what I'll do is I'll trim that pink back further than this colour. Sometimes with the darker colours you've got to do that, but the fact that these don't finish at exactly the same point will mean the seam is slightly less bulky, if that makes sense. A roll. press, bit of a trim. So I've trimmed that tooth, but we will have a section of 9 coming up. Not a section of 9. We will have 9, piece number 9, which is pink again. Need to do that bit too. Just working this out in my head, guys, because I'm hoping I can use this bit here instead. It's going to be tight. We know we like it tight. So that's going to cover it. I know that this green will probably show through, but once it's all sewn together, that won't really matter. There's my phone off again. So I've done that. Now I'm going to do number 10. I'm not going to worry about trimming at the moment because that will all come. This I'm going to fold back and pin out the way because I shouldn't have done it yet, so it wouldn't be there theoretically. Actually, I'm going to trim these threads off, they're annoying me. Yep, that will play. So that's that bit done. I'm going to push that over, all the way over. Give it a good roll, particularly on those seamy bits. Give it a bit of a press. I'm going to pull this bit, which I'm going to sew down. But first, I need to trim. Oh, just do it right first time, guys. That's the lesson to be learnt from this. If I hadn't made that short, then I wouldn't have tried to sew in the wrong order. Classic me. So there we go. I'm just going to sew that row again, or that line, which is the last one. This section, I think. Oh, I shouldn't have trimmed that off. Now it's a bit short that way. Go back to bed, Helen. That's what you need to do. I think I'm going to have enough there. Not ideal, but I think I'm going to have enough. So I'm just going to trim it a little bit, just so you can see in comparison to the cooler shade how it goes. They're going to look pretty sweet, don't you think? So together like that. So this bit here, as you can, well, you can't see because it's just about dried, but you've got that fray check there. I don't normally make as many mistakes on this, guys. It's Friday night. We've been homeschooling. It's not great. So what I am going to do is, just because again this is a bit short, I'm going to chuck a little bit of a fray check there. I'll leave that to dry, and then what I probably will do is I'll probably stick it down onto the paper as well. Don't do that, guys. So I'm going to sew this one up, hopefully without any mistakes, and then I'm going to start piecing them together so you can see them.